Good morning, Quasar Markets Live. You have your host, Hondo Greenberg here. How is everyone doing? I hope you had a great weekend. I know I did. First things first, want to give my condolences to the nation for the loss of former President Jimmy Carter. 100 years, but unfortunately passed away yesterday or Saturday. Um, you know, it's funny how his legacy has changed over the years, right? Wasn't highly thought of when he was in office, and then through the use of his philanthropy and his, especially, you know, Habitat for Humanity, building homes for people who didn't have them and stuff. Just did some great work. So very sad to hear that. The New York Stock Exchange, or all the stock exchanges, I guess, will be taking a moment of silence for him at 9:30, and we will do the same in coordination with them here at Quasar Markets. So it is looking like, man, Santa crashed that sleigh. Uh, directly into the side of a mountain or something here. So we are looking to open up on the SPY right around 587, down another, point and a half almost. And what we can see is, really at 7 a.m. as the world started to wake up here in the Western Hemisphere, it has been a fairly steady decline. So yeah, just not a good look here. We're down about 1.3% on the SPY, down about 1.5% on the NASDAQ. Bitcoin had been holding 93, now dropped back below that 93 to 92. And we know 91, my sort of line in the sand is 91,750 or so. We dropped below that. We've got some pretty good downside back into, high 80s. So keep that in mind. Could be a buying opportunity here, but definitely looking weak. I will say some of the alts within crypto were doing a little bit better. Ethereum being one that was doing a little bit better, not so much now, but Litecoin, there were a few, not many. And again, if we look at advanced declines and things like that, the Nasdaq's advanced decline here we can see is negative 1917. So just pretty bad there. Overall advanced decline line is about 1500. So we might see some movement to the upside for some Dow components that aren't part of the NASDAQ, but I don't know what they're going to be, because as I looked around, the Mag 7, all of them down more than 1.5% basically here. Apple at 1.23. Excuse me, I guess all of them over down 1%. So when you see that, and then you start to go through even a little bit further, chip sector definitely getting hit pretty hard here. E-commerce, you got one company, Copart, that's up, which I believe is I don't want to say, I don't know what it is. I'd be making it up. Banks all negative. You have a couple positives. Those are overseas banks, so. And the restaurant stock's getting hit pretty hard here also. So again, across the board, not looking very strong. And with that being said, too, gold not really catching a bid. Good morning, Zora. Hope everybody doing well. Nah, nothing's doing well here this morning, Zora. Nothing is doing well. Market's definitely getting hit. As I was saying, I feel like Santa might have crashed that sleigh with the rally in it because it's not here. But yeah, it definitely not opening up on the good side for anything here. Um, and there really isn't much world. I mean, the biggest part is these rates. You still have a 30-year. It broke back above 4.8. Now it's down a little bit to 4.76 here, but big moves up. If you look here since December 6th, the 30-year was sitting at 4.3, and we've moved up to 4.8, pulled back a little bit here to 4.76. But these rates are definitely going to be yeah, they're definitely going to be a weight on the markets today from what I can see so far. Question is, do we see a bounce back? What we've seen a lot of days is the opposite. We see an extreme move to one side, either north or south, and then the markets sort of wake up, get moving here after 9:30. The thing is, we're going to see there's not going to be a lot of liquidity today. So one of the things we'll keep an eye on is what does volume today start to look like, and is there any volume there? But right now, not a huge amount of volume that we're seeing. Uh, so that's going to be the biggest thing. This is where you can see, and part of this is like we talked about, is gets exacerbated because of the low liquidity, and you do have hedge funds and private equity, that are shedding some positions to end their year to show their customers to lock in those gains for their clients. You have folks that will be tax harvesting today and tomorrow. Maybe you did well this year on the market, but you have a couple of dogs you've been holding on to. You make that decision. Do you want to continue to hold them, or do you go the other way and take the tax benefit that can come from that? So yeah, exactly, Zora. You are right there. It's yeah, absolutely. Tax loss harvesting by retail usually more than institutional, and then on the institutional side is what you have is locking in profits so they can say to their clients, look, we booked, look what this trade did. So if they were in, something that just took off in the last few weeks, they're going to take that profit now so that they can, add that into the portfolio as they send it out to everybody to say, hey, look how good we did this year. So you will see that a little bit. Oh, I didn't realize that. The New York Stock Exchange is going to take their moment of silence for President Carter at 9:20, so not at 9:30. I had joked earlier also, I wanted to know if Boeing had maybe made the engine um, in Santa's sleigh there that crashed, since, again, another issue for Boeing, down about 4%. I do have some of the stocks that have been up and down here this morning, but Boeing getting hit again this morning, down about another 3% here, which has actually rallied off the lows of the morning after the news of that issues with failed inspections following the Juju Air crash. So very sad to see that 179 people lost their lives. I don't know if you saw. There's a video. There's video of it. Like, man, it looked like it was skidding on the ground, and it looked like everything was going to be okay, and then boom, just blew up. As we look around the world to see what's happening elsewhere so far, stocks, which is the European stock market 600, very similar to our S&P 500, down about a half a point on the day. And it did, again, just a little while ago, move off the lows of the morning and has retraced a little bit up. So we're seeing a little bit more strength there to end the day. Shanghai did end up as a positive up, almost 0.2 of a percentage point. And then the Japanese Nikkei got hit real hard, but again, in the last 10 minutes or so, has been moving a little bit to the north side, but that's down about 1.27. So stating Nikkei seems to be trending where we are here so far in U.S. markets and equities. Yeah, very sad, Zor, for that. I do have to point out again, Big Beat told people buy natural gas when it was at $3. It's now broken above 425. I will tell you that he mentioned he is looking to short UNG, and that part of that is that it just blew up so far, so fast, number one. And you can see this goes back to levels here that we hadn't seen since June. And then there is also so again, you'll see profit taking. So if you have a hedge fund made an end of the year bet, in the last couple of weeks, like Steve did on natural gas, looking at it now and saying, hey, look at that, I can book, if you bought UNG was trading on December 17th at, 13. So, that jumped to 18.5. That's a 40% gain. They can lock that in and use that. But the other part is, again, UNG has contango and time decay to it, that plays into stuff. And that's the other part that Steve talked about playing. I will say he does think we see further drawback here. And I think that's the same too. I am leaning towards a bearish view here. It's tough not to. But again, like I said, if I see volume come in, that would change everything. So if all of a sudden, people started to realize, hey, there's some real bargains out there right now, maybe we see a turnaround. But it doesn't look it. And man, if you look here on my screen, all of these that start with an X, these are the spider funds. So they are, basically the 11 sectors that they track, and all of them negative here. And only one that looks close to not being is consumer staples, is only down 0.09%. So that's literally the only one that's close. Hmm. So yeah, definitely looking a little bit negative. Well, Zora, always remember you can always look into self-directed 401ks. Um, definitely can look at that, and even one step further than that, take a look at some of the stuff from the blue collar investor. Here, I'll pull it up for you. Uh, Dr. Alan Ellman does a spot every week with me. We put it up on our YouTube station. Um, Hold it one second. And what he works on a lot is with people, and what he does, he specializes in, or at least what he does is he uses a non-taxable account, a 401k, self-directed, to buy stocks and then sell covered calls against them. It has a whole program based around that. And it's very interesting. So look at it, and it has a huge amount of free material for you to look at on his site. So it's not something where you have to go in right away and get in there. He's got literally hundreds and hundreds of articles, PowerPoints, things that he's done on it. Yeah, and because that's what he does. He does it in a non-taxable account. He manages it himself, and the way that he talks about it and the way that he explains it is, he then writes covered calls or cash secured puts. And what he's doing is basically treating it like real estate. He's using his stock portfolio to earn him income. And he does it all in a way that's non-taxable because it's within his 401ks and all that. So yeah, take a look at his stuff. And like I said, we've got some great videos on the YouTube station. In fact, he's the only one so far that I've done that for. I have actually created for him. When you go to our YouTube, it might not like me doing all this since I've got YouTube loaded up and doing it. Yep, let me grab it for you there, Zora. That's what I'm doing. Uh, why is it not showing? Because I'm not in the videos. Here we go. Oh, you know what? That's someone's created a fake one of our accounts. That's not us. What Quasar Markets Live? I'm like, wait a second. Sorry, Zora. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. So he has his own playlist here, called QM Live Interviews with the Blue Collar Investor. So there's an entire playlist. Let me see if I can get a link there for that. But it's at, here, I'll just type it in here for you. I want to type. There it goes. Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. Yeah, that's what we want people to see. That's why we put him up here. And again, if you go to his, he has, we've already got about 10 videos from him up. Seven, it looks like. And I do have an eighth that we just did, so there's going to be eight of them. And he does great stuff. Great stuff. Very, very intelligent guy. Was a dentist and was doing this on his own and got so good at it that it became his career. So it is pretty cool. Okay, let's see what we got here. Tick is down 361 right now, and advanced decline is moving negative down around 1500 here. So we see that, and Nasdaq getting hit even harder, down 1856 on the advanced decline line. We do see SPY down about 1.14%. So again, we are bouncing off the lows of the day that came at about 854 on all the markets, it looks like. So we'll see what we get here. We got about 15 minutes to the open. Some stocks that were moving so far this morning. And it's kind of funny. One of them is VeriSign. VeriSign I talked about the other day. Um, they Warren Buffett took a huge position in this company, and it is interesting, and it got announced. We talked about it on Friday, and look what it's done in the 2 days in that news. It was trading at 202, now up at 206.99, and we know that he got in at 195. So he's already up about $10 a share on that stock, and it's funny because you know, he doesn't do it, but he could really be a sort of pump and dump guy without, and I don't want to say it the wrong way because it's not doing something wrong, but he's when it gets out that he has bought into a company, you see that move that happens after it, man. So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If he wanted to, he could just always sell into that and make a profit. He doesn't do it, but you really could. It shows, yeah, it's crazy. Some of the I was looking at what was up and down in the S&P so far. Big winner so far was EQT, which is a mineral company involved in oil and gas exploration. And I think it's moving mostly because it's been getting picked up as, again, what we also are seeing is a bunch of stocks that are catching some, tailwinds right now because they're being written up as, hey, these are undervalued stocks from 2024 that are getting ready, that could be good investments moving into the new year. So we are seeing, a decent amount of those also hit the market. I believe EQ2 sort of falls into that frame of it. Zora, you mentioned it earlier. Chips really getting hit today. Um, I think AVGO was the biggest hit. I saw about 3% down. Um, Nvidia's pulled back now to 137, 134, excuse me, 134.47 from 152. So I need my calculator because I don't have that math built in here. So they were trading 152.89 minus. So they're down about 12% off their all-time highs. I mean, when do you start to think Nvidia maybe becomes, a buy for your more long-term portfolio type stuff? I think personally for me, it looks like you get something down here around that 130 mark. Could be interesting time for Nvidia. Anything just above that 129.08 area. That's the level where we really took off from. So that wouldn't be a bad move. At some point I want to own some Nvidia. You know what I mean? At some point I definitely want to own personally some Nvidia. I think it is one, that I want to have. Like you said, even in I do have a self-custodial IRA. I don't have a ton in it right now. But I do have one. In fact, I opened it, if you remember, from the during the crypto room days because you could trade Bitcoin in it. But you can do stocks in that same account. So Nvidia is one I wouldn't mind putting in there, I think. If it pulls back. So that's definitely one I'm going to keep an eye on. Again, others getting hit here today. Oh, I'm going to observe the moment of silence here for a second for the president. Okay, and as I said, the New York Stock Exchange did a moment of silence for President Carter, who passed away over the weekend. Um, and man, what a guy that guy. I mean, just everything he did for Habitat for Humanity um, and just more. I mean, as I said earlier, his presidency what at the time wasn't looked at very positively, but when you look back at it now, what he did in the Middle East has still not been able to been done since. His peace accord between the Egyptians and Israel that holds to this day. Um, along with his charitable ways and givings and so forth, definitely put him in a light and got as a Nobel Peace Prize. So rest in peace, President Carter. Boeing, sorry to jump right back into it, but Boeing here, which had been on the nice climb up again after that news in South Korea, back down around 174 here. MSTR getting hit, MicroStrategy, as Bitcoin gets hit, been getting hit. I will say it looks like it could even fill this gap to the downside at 272, 274. Again, I would become a buyer here, if it fills this gap that we see right over in this little area here. You fill that gap, it becomes extremely attractive for me. So one that I will watch here. Yeah, absolutely, Zora. We'll say another one that was getting hit pretty hard this morning has now made a nice little retracement. You can see here is W.R. Berkeley, which is a property and casualty company. And they were getting hit pretty hard all morning. It was trading down. Actually, this doesn't make sense. I think there was something, they must have done a stock split or something today because this isn't showing up right. We're going to pull that one off because I don't know what is going on there. Another one that's got hit pretty, oops, I just took it off. Palantir. Pulling back a little bit here. Again, I think if you get back down in the 72 area here, I'd be very interested in Palantir too. Cybersecurity is going to become more and more and more important. We see it. I don't know if you've been reading, but I've been reading about all the spy stuff lately in the Wall Street Journal. I'm not talking about like a James Bond book, but all this stuff. They've been talking about these, what they call pig butchering scams, which is sort of the old love, they look for elderly people. They try to convince them the honeypot, they call it also. That's what I was looking for. And they get people to invest in companies that aren't real and steal all their money. and talking about how North Korea and China are, involved in that. There's been a lot of interesting stuff, um, that shows how important cybersecurity is. And we just saw that, American Airlines going into the uh, Christmas break was grounded because of a hack. These hacks are coming more and more. Palantir is definitely the lead in that space, and especially the lead in that space when it comes to the Department of Defense. They just have huge Department of Defense contracts. So again, one that if it takes a little bit more of a pullback here, you can see where it has some pretty solid support when it consolidated in that range. If we can get a pullback there, be interesting. And I might be willing to dabble in more at that 74 area, for a bounce back if we could see it. So yeah, Zor, it's been all over the place with that stuff they would do. Like I said, I was reading a Wall Street Journal article over the weekend where those guys, they estimate that his scams have been cost Americans over $1 billion. Just insane. We are about 4 minutes from the open here. Tick still negative, right around that 300 area. Advanced decline, still sticking in about that 1629. Spine QQQ have leveled out. Doesn't look like we haven't moved much here. As you can see, since about 9:03, we've been moving about sideways here. So the last 20 minutes or so. Bitcoin trying to make a run back up towards 93 here. So getting a little bit of momentum back. We'll see if it can get back above there. Gold, another one. I keep reading. The one thing that's you get this time of the year is you'll just see what I call like the recycled articles, recycled gold. A lot of people calling for gold to 3,000. That call's been out since maybe October when it made its last run. I think people really started talking about that back here in September and October. So, I don't think it's a surprise um, at that, but I would point out that it's been stuck also. It's just been unable to move here. You know, again, we're right where we were October 9th. We're right where we were September 20th, when it comes to gold. And I bet Bitcoin's pretty similar. And we are. I mean, what I mean is we're right where we were November 20th. We're right where we were November 12th. That's the difference. Theirs goes back a little further, but that's where we're at. The gains that we got basically from um, the election and everything have just been sold off. But we're still in a pretty good spot. That's not a terrible thing to have happen. The exuberance went. It showed that we can get there. We got price discovery within these regions up towards 108 and then back down. And the same thing with QQQ. After the election, we tested this whole area. We set up some support and resistance zones, some price action between 520 and 537 that will make it more sustainable when we go back to those areas. It will give us a better way to be able to trade those. We are about 2 minutes from open here. Trying to see. O Realty is up a little bit here this morning. There's not much to look at. Is Smucker's really up? So the JM Smucker company that makes jelly, they are up 0.34% here this morning. Not sure why, but I think that's funny. Huh. See an article here. Is the JM Smucker stock worth a buy at a P multiple of 10.8x? I don't know enough about the Smucker company to give you an answer there. I mean, that sounds like a good price to earnings ratio to invest in that, but I would want to see if they've got more of the upside jams than their regular things. I do think that we're seeing those are the type of places where you want to be in a little bit more of an organic upper end type thing. Talked a little bit about what's causing, the drops here across markets. And, one of the big reasons here is definitely the rising bond yields. The 10-year treasury closed at almost 4.6 the other day. Here we are open. I'll come back to that bonds in a second. We opened first ticks, ooh, down 700. So it looks like we might get hit another level down here. Let's see what it does. Put the first few seconds on the tick to the downside. Oh, advanced decline jumped to 34.17. Although I should point out the reason, and if you watch advanced decline, every morning you will see it jump one way or the other. It will exasperate whichever way the market was already moving in pre-market. And what that is it's accounting for the stocks that don't trade in the pre or post-market hours. There's still a large swath of stocks that only trade during market hours, 9:30 to 4 p.m. So far, not a good start here, but not a huge jump on SPY or QQQ. A little bit more of an exasperation to the downside, a little bit of a continuation of the downtrend, but not a ton here. And again, SPY looks like it might want to close this gap towards 577 here today if it loses some momentum. I'm looking at the gap that's right here. So it might try to close that gap back to the downside. The other one, QQQ, approaching the downside. It's 50-day MA. We haven't seen that in a while. I mean, that's the other thing. QQQ has been challenging that 50-day to the downside here. Bitcoin 92,760. So a little bit to the upside. Gold got hit a little bit here to the downside on the open. Oil, gas is getting expensive for those of you that are driving a lot. Gas is, back above $3 most places. Although that's a terrible thing to say because it's so weird. Um, what I think is a good gas price for someone who's in California, that's a very different price. Because yeah, just it's so regional on gas prices. When I was in Nevada and California over the summer, it was like $6 a gallon when we were at 260, 270 in Ohio, and it was about $3 in DC at that time. I had traveled all three in about a week and just was blown away about the differences in gas prices. Seems like a scam to me. Okay, let's see what we got going on things moving up and down here. Let's get to our pumpers. I'm more interested in what's moving in the big stocks. Colterra looks like it wants to run today. Pulled back pre-market. Now moving back up. Colterra Energy. We'll say VeriSign getting sold off here too. So some of the early morning pumpers are getting sold off. Yeah, we're dropping back down even more. QQQ on the lows of the day here, 514. And it looks like it wants to go back below 514. Ooh, there it goes. Bitcoin back at 92.5 here. And again, none of the 11 sectors within the spider funds are up. XLE, which I believe is energy, is the only one even close right now. So yeah, still weak across the board here. Still weak across the board. A little early to look at volume to see what's going on there. Let's see what we got going on with any halts or anything fun there. Seeing Vince Holding, VNCE. There's not nearly enough volume in that to play around. Only 68,000 shares trading. PTLE, which is that planet? Stop to the downside. That's not one. So nothing really so far on halts. Big winners of the day so far. NXU. It's giving back a lot of those gains, up about 200% here. Holo's running. Holo's a good one to watch. Yeah, these pumpers don't look like they're still pumping though. INTZ, kind of interested, not really. Faraday's one that always pumps. Faraday pumping again. This one actually I have lines in because we've used it. It's been doing this. So this one's come all the way back up to the highs from October 10th. If this one breaks, there it goes. It's running. FFIE, definitely runner. Now at 920 and running. Wow, that's a big one. Yeah, dump is nuts here, Zora. It's just going to keep going, I think. Doesn't look like it has anything stopping it yet, although NASDAQ has. Seems to have found maybe a little bit of a bottom here. But you need to break back above 515.91 to see it go positive here, so to speak. If you can get above that 515.88, you start to feel better for the day. See Bitcoin challenge in 92 now. Faraday was just stopped, so we saw that first. Faraday has now been halted. Again, that's FFIE. Wow, halted at 921, blew through everything here. Well, 321, excuse me. That'll be an interesting one coming off of the halts. We're still seeing a negative 500 on the tick here. And not able to hold the little gains that we do see. There is nothing on green. Corporate bonds. Even that's only up 0.01. Molson Coors having a good day. DXY. So this is the other part that's given us this problem. We've seen all the days that were sort of above 108 with the DXY, again, the dollar index, have been a negative for the stock market, obviously. Um, and 108,289 has us close to the all-time, well, not all-time high, but the 52-week high at 108.54. Euro coming back down towards that key support zone that Steve Flanagan's talked about with us. Same thing we can see after a couple of days of gains across a lot of the different currency pairs with the US dollar. US dollar killing most of them here. Yeah, so that's definitely not helping either. Boeing now down 4.24%. Wow. Coinbase down 4% here. Here's another one that if you look at it, it's filled that gap. Is it going to fill the second gap all the way down here towards this 200 level? I will tell you that 200-day MA, I'd be interested in coin to this 229 area. So I got a few to keep an eye on here. Coin, well, obviously QQQ, Nvidia. Those are ones I've sort of already set some spots at, but I'd like to look at it if it does continue to drop down. Bitcoin mining stocks continuing to get hit hard here. Mara back at 1774. To be honest with you, that breaks below 1740 here. You've got downside to 1532. I wouldn't short this, but I'd be interested. And again, more of a longer term play if it comes back in this area. Mealy coming back down to 1696 again. This one Steve and I bought at 1500. We took our profit pretty nicely at that 1768. It pulled down and then it took off, but we were out of the trade. But again, another one that looks like it wants to come back down, maybe even fill this gap in the 1550 area. QQQ continuing to slide now at lows of the day again, 513.49. Definitely not much going on here this morning so far. What else did I have to talk about today here? Will say I saw an interesting article that sort of reinforced what Steve and I have been talking about a bunch, which is the surge in spending or the relative strength in the market at the high end, right? And there was an article in Barron's talking about Chef Warehouse, CHEF. And I talked about Cisco, if you remember, as one that's approaching the 200-day MA. That is a food service company. And I like that as it approached the 200-day MA, maybe as a play. Chef Warehouse on the other side, I used a lot when I owned my restaurants, in that they have the more high end restaurants as their clientele usually. Once you get past a certain level, a lot of the chefs don't like to use Cisco or US Foods. They feel that they're just pedestrian, so to speak, and that they don't carry the esoteric stuff that they might want. A lot of them use the Chef's Warehouse. It's a great supply company. And again, like if you're looking to get Wagyu beef, stone crabs, and other upscale food menu items, they're the place that most restaurants in volume look to use. So it is one that gets a little bit interesting here, and they were pointing out not showing the same here, so I can't give you that info. But they were saying that the shares are trading at just 10 times the enterprise value to estimated next 12-month EBITDA, much cheaper than average over the past 5 years. And when that's happened, the gap has been filled, the valuation reaching like 12 times. So we want to keep an eye on here. Chef's Warehouse is a play more on that, sort of luxury restaurants are going to continue to strive like they have. So definitely one I'm going to be watching here. I don't know if I like it here at all-time highs, and I also see I'm kind of hoping it does what I like to call the Bart Simpson, right? Come up, consolidate like that for a while, and then come back down. It looks like the top of Bart's head. Almost down 1.84, so it's continuing to drop here, but now at 512.88. Bitcoin holding up at 92, but barely. 92,196 did bounce on its first attempt or first break below the 92 handle. And again, if we look at Bitcoin, it breaks below sort of the area it's at right now, which was what we tested here back here in November 26th. You got to start looking at this level that comes all the way down to just below 88 as the area that you could see a pullback to on a breakdown below that. We'll see what we get. It's been holding up mostly. It keeps bouncing from this 92 level back up pretty well, but we'll see what we get moving forward. There is just nothing that seems to be moving up here. Oil, oil and gas in the 2 year. 2 years up over 0.5%. Oh no, that's the U.S. money supply. So we just put some more money out there. 21.45 trillions now the money supply. So it looks like the Fed printed some money for some reason, issued more bonds. I mean, that's what they do. Dollar is cooling off a little bit here now after hitting those highs. We're seeing the dollar cool off a little bit. Maybe gives us a little bit of a bounce back here across equities. But tick still negative over 500, negative 585. Advanced decline now up almost towards 47.45. Wow. It's a good old fashioned butt kicking hit going on right now. Like I said, it's taken down everything. Gold down 0.5 point, Bitcoin down 1.5%, silver down 0.84. The only things holding up so far have been Brent, oil. Cocoa took off today, up 11.84%. Not sure. I mean, there we know it has pulled back tremendously. It was trading in that 13 area and pulled all the way back down below 10. So I think that's more of a mean reversion play right now rather than something that's moving up. Nat gas though up 18% now, 437. Man, I hope Steve didn't short that yet. Steve is going long TQQQ here, so Steve is looking for a scalp on the QQQ. He feels it must be overblown. Let's see if he gets it right here. He did that at 948. So he got in right around that 513 spot, it would look like. He's usually good at picking these spots. Usually very good at picking these spots. If I had to guess, he's only looking for about 514.75. Bouncing here. Struggling a 513.60 right now. There it goes. I don't know if he's right this time. 80.29. Just trying. There he goes. He's got it, maybe. He's got it. I guess he's looking for this 80-84 area. There it goes. He nailed it. Well done by Big Beat there. Nailed it off the bottom there. There it goes. $80.63, trying to keep on rising here. Could get a run all the way to 81.24. That'd be huge for him. Bitcoin has bounced back up above 92 here, 92,115. Gold back above 2,600. And we do see the NASDAQ rebounding a little bit here also. SPY rebounding a little bit better. Nvidia now positive on the day, half a point. So that definitely isn't pulling back to the area for me there. So there it goes. Nvidia, that could start to turn around. Is Tesla moving with it? No, not so far. So Nvidia, the only stepping up in the positive here. I wonder if everybody did the math that I did earlier, realized it was down 12% from its all-time highs and said it was time to buy. I sent the news out too quick for Azora. It's moving up nicely here. Up almost 7/10 of a percentage point now. Let's see if this gives Tesla a run or anything else. Actually, Tesla's still moving to the downside. Small caps, I mean, yeah. Dow is down 1.46%. S&P down 1.5. QQQ down 1.65. RUT, which is the small cap 2000 index, down 1.64%. Bitcoin down 1.6%. Gold down half a point. Silver down 7/10 of a percentage. So again, the only things that are moving up so far today are oil, which is up about 1.63% on the WTI, which is the light crude out of Texas, up a little less on the Brent out of the Norwegian area, and not a lot besides that. Dollar Tree up a half a percentage point here today. One of the few gainers I'm seeing. Nvidia being one of them. Let's take a look and see. So we look at, I'm looking at basically the S&P 500, the NASDAQ 100, and the Dow. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 companies that are in the positive right now, and that's it. EQT, Katera, Devon Energy, Dollar Tree, Nvidia, Fang, which we know is Diamondback Energy, VeriSign that I talked about. Those are the positives, and APA. Everything else in the negative. And if we take a look at the biggest losers so far, SMCI down another 5.37%. MicroStrategy, we talked about. Boeing, we talked about. Micron getting hit pretty hard here, down 4%. Enphase Energy down 3.78. On Semiconductor down 3.48. So again, chip sector getting hit pretty hard here. DaVita, which I believe is healthcare. Yeah, medical nursing services. Dell's been getting hit here. What is that chart looking like these days? So Dell, we know, jumped to a 52-week high after its listing in the S&P. And man, that thing's dropped way down from there. That was 148 back at 115. Lemon Weston getting hit today here. We know that gap down tremendously on their earnings report. And then it had moved up nicely over the last few days of the trading last week. Absolutely, Zora. You got to do your own research for sure when it comes to this stuff. Without a doubt. Tick is trying to go positive here. So Tick is trying to go positive. But with that being said, we're back below 514 on QQQ. We had made a nice move above it. So that's sliding further away. And if I had to guess, Nvidia's probably starting to fall off. No, Nvidia's still holding up. Most of the other chips down 3-4%. None of the top e-commerce I look at are even up. For banks, only foreign banks, Mitsubishi, which is a Japanese-based bank, is up. NU, which we know is out of Brazil, is a bank that's up. Santander is, I think it's a Spanish bank, is where they're from originally. Yeah, these are all foreign banks. There are some foreign banks that are up. That's it there. Across restaurant stocks, nothing is up. Financial service company, not one of them up either. We're continuing. Hey, have a great one, Zora. I will see you tomorrow. And that will actually do it for us here. We are continuing to drop down. I got to go get my coffee also. Everyone have a fantastic day.